The Palomar Cancer Institute is going to be all about family.
I get to understand their story, what they've been through in their life, and how to get them back to that story. Help them defeat the fear of cancer, get through that journey, and you get to see the real person emerge underneath the illness.
We're going to put a lot of time and energy into making sure that you get the experience that we would want if we were patients.
At Palomar Health, we are the leaders in quality and expertise in the region.
La Jolla Country Day versus the Bishop School this Saturday on YurView.
Week 4 of the high school football season in the books. Jon Schaeffer joined once again by Jonathan Rifkin here on Left Coast Sports. We're going to look ahead to our upcoming action here on YurView. We've got Thursday Night Football for you coming up this week. Escondido and Oceanside. We're going to recap what happened this past week. We had Lincoln and Mater Dei. Lincoln rolling and winning 54-19. As always, this episode brought to you by Palomar Health. Champions aren't made overnight. They're created through practice, determination, and dedication. Palomar Health, champions of healthcare, champions for you. Again, you can catch our weekly action throughout the high school football season. Game time on YurView. This Thursday, we'll have one for you. Again, Escondido, Oceanside. Jonathan will be on the call with Jack Cronin. So, Jonathan, we go back to this past Thursday night. We were on the call at Mater Dei. We saw Lincoln on display, led by Achilles Smith Jr. Slow start, but 54 points and a big 54-19 win.
Yeah, 54 points in 3 quarters. Remember, this game was 7-0 Mater Dei Catholic going into the second quarter. And then Lincoln ripped off 34 straight points in the 12 minutes of football to go up 34-13. Remember, Mater Dei Catholic scored a touchdown, missed the PAT. So that was a 34-13 halftime lead for Lincoln. And really felt effortless for Achilles Smith Jr., who is dubbed as the #1 dual threat quarterback in the nation for the class of 2025. It was definitely a tale of 2 different quarters in that first half, John. Felt like Mater Dei Catholic ripping off that big 71-yard touchdown reception by Isaiah Buxton would be able to level out the momentum a little bit that Lincoln had coming into the game. And then, the next play was a response from Achilles Smith Jr. with a 74-yard touchdown pass. So it was fun it was fun throughout, but it was competitive throughout the first 12 minutes. And then, like you said, Lincoln, they were on display for the rest of this game.
Yeah, I was impressed by Lincoln because they had to deal a little bit with adversity. And then Achilles Smith Jr. he makes it look so effortless. We talked about that throughout the course of the broadcast. Truth be told, it wasn't just his ability through the air or even with his legs. He's got a really good rushing attack. I thought the offensive line was outstanding. Donald Reed III really was good on the ground. The tailback went for over 100 yards. And when they got going, as we talked about there, Jonathan, with the 34 unanswered points or whatever it was, you just saw their athleticism as a team on display. It's like if anything didn't go Mater Dei's way, Lincoln was able to capitalize on it. And we saw that at the end of the first half. And then once you're trailing by 20 or 30 points against a team as good as Lincoln, you're basically out of the game. Credit to Mater Dei. They did score late. But in the end, it was one-sided, obviously.
Yeah, Cartel Purvis just didn't have enough time in the pocket for Mater Dei. He did a lot to try and extend plays, to try to make something out of nothing. But when you don't have a lot of time against one of the best front 7 teams in the state of California, dare I say, it's going to be tough sledding. Again, he looked really good. He was keen. He was physical. He could move. Just a junior getting his first varsity chops of his career. So there's a lot of positives to take away here from the quarterback, Cartel Purvis, and Mater Dei Catholic. But again, just not a ton of help with the offensive line. The running game, they just could not get it going out of the backfield. And you mentioned Donald Reed III and Lincoln, but how about C.J. Williams, 7 for 81, 12 yards per touch, a touchdown as well, 4 rushing touchdowns as a whole for Lincoln. And then I will say the other thing too, there were moments where Achilles Smith Jr. got squeezed out. He was forced into a bad decision, and he threw an interception. Coming into this game, 10 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions thrown from Achilles Smith Jr. Walks away 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions through the year in this game. So again, a couple more positives to be taken here from Mater Dei Catholic defensively.
It's interesting because we talked about this a lot last week. Mater Dei got off to a bad start a year ago. I mean, they were winless in their first 4 games. They end up as state champions. They're now 0-3 on the year. Lincoln a year ago played a lot like this, right? I mean, they basically steamrolled their way into a state tournament, ended up as state champs for the first time in school history. I mean, as you look ahead here with what Lincoln has to come, with what Mater Dei has to do, could you see Mater Dei flipping the script in the second half of the season like they did a year ago?
Yeah, they're at Point Loma. This is a Pointer team that comes in 2-2. It's at home for Point Loma, so Mater Dei Catholic back on the road. So 4 of their first 5 games of the season on the road, or actually 3 of their first 4 on the road. They host St. Augustine in the following week, next week. I think Mater Dei Catholic wins this game. They'll get their first win of the season. That should give them some momentum. St. Augustine a bit hit or miss this year. Young quarterback, young skill positions, defense that is still finding itself. So I think that we could see Mater Dei Catholic at 2-3 going into league, and a league that they should win. Otay Ranch having a down year. Bonita Vista never really that competitive in conference. Montgomery 0-3 to start their season. So the only team in conference for Mater Dei Catholic to be worried about is Eastlake. And Eastlake is 0-3 to start the season as well. So I do think that Mater Dei Catholic will be fine once they get to league. It's just about taking care of business against Point Loma and against St. Augustine at home. On the other side for Lincoln, this is, a gauntlet. So you host Cajon, which is the best team out of San Bernardino. Names like Jaden Daniels, right, with 5 first-half touchdown passes for LSU last week in their win. Cajon puts out boys. They're 3-0 coming into this game. So Lincoln will have their hands full. I expect them to win this game. Strength of schedule for Cajon, not nearly what it is for Lincoln, beating those 2 Southern Section schools in the Hawaii team before taking down Mater Dei Catholic. And then you have Inglewood, a winnable game at home. And then league starts. Madison, St. Augustine, University City, never easy games. Then a neutral site Cathedral Catholic League game thrown in there as well. So I think if Lincoln's going to lose one, it's going to be to Madison. I think they'll handle Cathedral Catholic. They'll handle St. Augustine, University City. We could see an undefeated season from the Hornets.
All right, so we're through week 4 now, Jonathan. We've been talking about Lincoln's, win over Mater Dei, their schedule upcoming, Mater Dei's upcoming schedule as well. What were some other impressions of yours in week 4? I know La Jolla, Rancho Bernardo, there was Helix, Madison. What were your takeaways in those 2 games?
Yeah, you never really see La Jolla not score consistently. This is a La Jolla team, really well coached. Tyler Roche and company always have really good quarterbacks, and they put up 6 points in the third, and Rancho Bernardo, who got shut out in the second half, was able to put up a 13 spot in the second and score that touchdown in the first half. Or in the first quarter. And they do it mostly on the ground. 35 rushes, 269 yards, 6 different running backs, 19 for 145 for Tariq Fisher. So I think Eric Weddle's sort of figuring out the identity of this offense for Rancho Bernardo, and that's where we're going to try and pound the ground. Yeah, there we go. Say that 6 times fast. And let Hugo Thompson work, right? He was still productive as a quarterback, 8 for 10 for 179 yards. You're not going to get much more efficient than that with the touchdown pass. So I think that Weddle really wants the ground game to be the prominent force offensively for Rancho Bernardo. And then that takes the onus off of the quarterback, Thompson, who's a junior who really struggled last year because they had no offensive line. And then he can cook when he gets his opportunity. So very impressive stuff from Rancho Bernardo coming into this game. And they also destroyed time of possession, 28 minutes to 19 minutes for La Jolla. So very, very impressive. From a team that I'm excited to see in a couple of weeks. I'm calling their game at Del Norte. So a couple of Super Bowl champions, Nick Barnett against Eric Weddle in that one. And then, this might have been dubbed as the game of the week because post-Lincoln, Mater Dei Catholic, it wasn't that close. People thought, well, Helix, number 3 team in San Diego. Madison at the time was number 6 in San Diego. Those 2 teams should be somewhat evenly matched. So Madison maybe has the best defense in the county. And then Helix just goes in and destroys them 53-19. And this is a Helix team that's been down the last few seasons. They've had some really good running backs, but now we're seeing them come back and look the way that maybe not like the Reggie Bush days, but something resembling it, right? Because they're still running the ball 29 times on the ground. It's incredibly consistent. Their defense is really, really good. And they have receivers everywhere. 3 different receivers with a touchdown. Jackson Daniels, 4 for 56, 2 touchdowns for Helix. So very impressive for a Highlander team that had some questions going into this game and ended up on the right side of it.
All right, so week 5 is going to kick off Thursday night. You can watch it. It's our Game Time High School Football Game of the Week on YurView Channel 4. Jonathan's going to be on the call this week with Jack Cronin. Escondido at Oceanside. What are your expectations as we kick off week 5 under the lights, 7 p.m. Thursday night?
Yeah, this is an Escondido team that really struggled a year ago, John. Oceanside has been given the benefit of the doubt the last 5 or so years, and they eventually got moved down. They're in Division III. They play in the Valley League. And both these teams, I think, are having a bit of a resurgence. Now, again, Oceanside used to be a perennial in the 90s, early 2000s, putting out names, former Heisman winners. So they have this pedigree, but we're going to see a showcase of 2 young quarterbacks, a freshman at Escondido named Caden Thompson, who has had a really good start to the season. He's a 77% completion percentage. He's passing for 227 yards per game, 11 touchdowns. The big question is his interception total, 6. So almost a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, but still 77% completion, 227 yards in the air. Escondido not really keen to rush. They only have 44 total carries this season, and that goes for 87 yards. So they're really not a team that wants to run the football. That's the antithesis of what we're going to see from Oceanside, a team that loves to run the football. The problem is they haven't been doing it effectively, only 35 yards per game, and they're averaging over 20 carries per game. So you got to think something's going to give. You don't really want somebody outside you'd prefer, I guess, somebody outside of just Gio Nua, who's the running back, to find some sort of space in the backfield, but it's going to be mostly done by their sophomore, Andrew Miller, the new quarterback, 33 for 55 coming into this game. Also averaging about 200 yards through the air, but again, a team that wants to run, they just haven't been able to get it going. I'm interested to see how the offenses take shape in this game. Defensively, Escondido's given up a ton of points. They gave up, 21 points last week against Vista, a team that really struggled in their first 3 games of the season. So some question marks there. Oceanside looking to capitalize there, and then Oceanside's defense is really good. And if Escondido can't perform through the air the way that they have been through the first 4 games of their season, they're 2-2. Oceanside's 2-2. Then they could have a really tough time. So it's really going to be Oceanside's defense versus Escondido's offense, and Oceanside, of course, has to find a way to get into the end zone primarily through the air. But if they can get the running game going, I think that's their preference out at home on a Thursday night.
Yeah, Thursday night, 7 p.m. Again, YurView Channel 4. And then, Jonathan, you kind of look ahead to our schedule. We kind of previewed it maybe a couple of weeks ago before the start of the high school football season in San Diego County. I'm wondering if any of your opinion has changed on what we have still to come, or what you've seen potentially from any of these teams, or your expectations for these matchups. Because in a couple of weeks, we'll have La Jolla Country Day and Bishop. That's going to be a Saturday game. Then we're going to have a lot of Thursdays. Hilltop at East Lake. That'll be our 5th game in early October. We've got El Cap and Mount Miguel in the middle of October. We have Mission Hills, El Camino later in October. We've got Madison and St. Augustine coming up late October as well. Then we'll have a 9th matchup the final week of October, a matchup that's still to be determined. But when you look ahead beyond Escondido at Oceanside this weekend, which of those matchups still to come are you looking forward to?
Yeah, there's a bunch of good stuff coming. And Bishop, let's go to the La Jolla Country Day Bishop's game that's coming up. It's a Saturday game that we're doing. Bishop's has really struggled this year. This is a Bishop's team that had Tyler Buckner, who, in my opinion, should probably be starting for Alabama, especially what we saw from their offense against Texas this past weekend. But he was at Notre Dame. He was really good at Notre Dame. And they've sort of fallen off since then offensively. They have a coaching change, brand new coaching staff. But I think that they're going to get their money's worth. They're going at Mount Miguel, a Mount Miguel team that has literally never been competitive in San Diego. They get Verlaine Botefe. They get TJ McKay, who's the offensive coordinator, brand new coaching staff. And all of a sudden, Mount Miguel is 4-0, maybe a top 15 team in San Diego. So Bishop's on the road at Mount Miguel. That's going to really show us a lot. If Bishop's can find a way to get a win there, that could do wonders for a team that is really searching for its identity early on in this season. And then this Helix Cathedral Catholic game. I know that's not a game or 2 of those teams that we're necessarily expected to see on YurView, but a game to pay attention to. There's a ton of section implications for this. Cathedral Catholic 1-3, but all 3 of those losses come from teams outside of San Diego who are ranked nationally in like the top 20, 25, depending on which source you're looking at. And then Helix, who's 5-0 and just dominated Madison. and that'll be up at Cathedral Catholic. So that's a really interesting game to watch. Poway Del Norte is going to be a great game. Poway always tough. Carlsbad Ramona. Um, what we saw from Ramona against a Vista team wasn't really indicative because Vista's been struggling. They're going through a rebuild period. Ramona finally took their first loss last week. They're 2-1 on the season. Carlsbad at home, basically unstoppable. But we saw what Ramona's defense can do. And if they could figure out a way to score some points against a Carlsbad defense that doesn't give up more than 12, 15 points a game, that could actually be a really good football game. And then going down the list here, La Costa Canyon at Fallbrook's going to be a great game as well. And El Camino Mount Carmel. This is a Mount Carmel team with a quarterback in Talmapeo, who his older brother played there. Now he plays D2. They're 3-1. Haven't seen a Mount Carmel start like this for nearly 5 years. El Camino at 2-1, top 10 team in San Diego, going back to restoring the glory that they had in the early 2000s. That's a 7:15 kick on Friday. I'm going to be paying attention to this game. Ton of implications around the section. Mount Carmel could pull off this upset, but El Camino trying to get into the top 5 by the time we see them in a couple of weeks. So another really interesting game to pay attention to.
Yeah, we'll see. Like you said, El Camino, Mission Hills, that'll be October 19th. But again, this week, Escondido and Oceanside. Our next game will be at the end of September, La Jolla Country Day at Bishop, Saturday, September 30th at 7 p.m. All right, we're looking forward to it. Escondido at Oceanside. Jonathan Rifkin on the call with Jack Cronin. Make sure to join us. Game time on YurView. You can watch our Game Time High School Football Game of the Week on YurView Channel 4. And a reminder, this episode brought to you by Palomar Health. Champions aren't made overnight. They're created through practice, determination, and dedication. Palomar Health, champions of healthcare, champions for you. Jonathan, before you go, how do you keep this all organized? Because you're doing Thursday night games, you're doing a lot of Friday games, you've been doing some college football games on Saturday. I don't know if this week is a little lighter than your previous weeks, but how have you been able to keep this all organized to start the year?
A lot of tea and honey. A lot of tea and honey, and caffeine. You know, my sleep schedule's been all messed up. It's been a lot, but it's been fun. Like, this is, in my opinion, this is the best job that anybody could have, right? Like, we get to show up. It's different every single time you show up to a football game. And in this case, we're talking about football that we're calling. It's completely different. You never know what you're going to see. You never know who the big performers are going to be. And our job is as much fun as it is to actually go and watch it. Our job is to be sort of that connector between the viewer and what's going on in the game. And like, to me, that is so cool that we have this responsibility to bring a certain quality and expectation and entertainment to all these viewers. So I think that having that in the back of my head just keeps on pushing me, keeps me going. You know, overtime game on Friday night at Del Norte, they pulled out the win. Overtime football game, college football game, USD and Colorado Mesa. Mesa pulled off the upset back-to-back. I mean, within 24 hours, I called 2 football games that went into overtime. And it was a total blast. So that's how I keep it going. I just love it. And I get to work with amazing people like you and like Jack Cronin. And yeah, we're just going to keep it rolling.
Well, we're fortunate to work with you. We've had a lot of fun. It's been a great start to this high school football season, and it was great to have you on the call again, doing play-by-play this past Thursday night for Lincoln's big win over Mater Dei. So again, join us Thursday, Escondido and Oceanside. We'll be doing it each and every week throughout the course of the high school football season. We'll be getting you ready. We'll be looking back. And for Jonathan Rifkin, my name's Jon Schaeffer, and you've been watching Left Coast Sports.